ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसंपदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम्। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to one and all. Our topic for today is Shri Ram the human. Valmiki Ramayana is the Adi Kavya, and here it is written by Valmiki Rishi to depict Shri Ram as the human, because that is the avatar of Bhagwan. The prayojan of the Lord is to come as a human to make us aware how to live dharma in our life, in the world around, facing all the challenges that we go through in our life. So in Valmiki Ramayana, it is not as, he is not depicted as God with divine powers. In the beginning itself, when he is asking Narad ji about Konvasmin Sampratam Loke Gunavan Kascha Viryavan, who is a Gunavan, who is Viryavan, who is Dharmagnya, who is Kritagnya, there he concludes by asking Maharshetvam Samarthosi Jnatum Evam Vidham Naram. This type of a human being, you will be ready, you will be aware of this type of a human being who has all these great qualities. And so the objective here is that he goes through, Bhagavan goes through all the different emotions that we as human beings go through. And the beauty is, in and through all of them, he does not allow the emotions to overwhelm him. He stays steadfast in dharma. All of us have a higher nature and a lower nature, where we say that the higher nature is the knowledge, the values, what we are supposed to be in terms of the ideal, the goals that we set for ourselves. The lower nature is the temptations that drag us away, the emotions that distract us, the selfishness that comes into us. Sometimes we get astray from the path of dharma. Sometimes the situations around us are so powerful that we feel we are not able to live up to our convictions. Sometimes the role models that we have, they themselves compromise. So then we also think to compromise is all right. So many reasons are there why we give in to our lower nature. In Ramayana, we find that there are so many times that the circumstances are such that the Lord could have compromised, but he did not. And the beauty of it is that it is not that he did not go through the emotions that you and I go through. If he did not go through those emotions and he is portrayed only as God, then it becomes almost inhuman for us to follow. And that is why when people say that Ram's life is very idealistic, we can't live it, it is a false notion. Because you will see now in this Valmiki Ramayana, how many instances come where he goes through all those things that we go through and still he doesn't compromise. That is the objective of this avatar. It's not that all the time his situations were conducive or he never felt the lower emotions at all. Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Matsarya, so many of these lower emotions which are there, Bhagwan goes through some of them as a human being. But the important point is that he still did not compromise from his duty. That is the mastery of the mind. That is the mastery of the will. the integrity of the character, the ability of the higher mind to control the lower mind. All of us have that in some measure, there is no doubt. But Sri Ram epitomizes that completely. And that's why Sri Ram, we worship him as an ideal, not because he is such a high ideal that we can't live. We worship him as an ideal because that is how we can also live. In spite of going through all the challenges, we can pull ourselves up and live the life of dharma. So let us start there. Let us start some of the instances. First instance comes where he has to kill Tataka. Vishwamitra Rishi has taken him to protect the yajna and he has to kill Tataka. Now the first Rakshasa actually, he kills is a woman. And he is very hesitant. And he asked Vishwamitra Rishi that how she is a woman, she is a Rakshasi, how did she get the strength of 1,000 elephants? It is said in the Valmiki Ramayana, it comes there. A Yaksha woman, Tataka by name, capable of assuming any form at will and possessing at the very time of her birth the might of 1,000 elephants. So how did she get this and how has she become this? She is a Yaksha woman and how did she become Tataka? So Vishwamitra Rishi narrates everything. What is the backstory of this Yaksha woman, how she has become this demoness. And finally Vishwamitra Rishi tells him that no disgust should be felt by you for the act of killing this woman, O dwell among men. For in the interest of the four grades of the society, a cruel deed has in any case to be perpetuated by a Kshatriya prince, as well as an act which is anything but cruel. So it appears cruel, but it is not cruel, because it is for the protection of the society that you have to do this. So we find him going through this hesitation, this emotion that, why should I kill? And she is a woman, which also shows that he has great respect for women there. But when Vishwamitra Rishi explains the whole backstory, and he also understands it is not only for the well-being of the whole society around, it is also for her own well-being. That she was a Yaksha woman who is cursed, and now she has to be released from it. So with one single arrow Bhagwan shoots in her heart, she dies and she is released. That is for one instance. Then we come to this aspect where in the Ayodhya Kand, Dashrath Maharaj has called all his council of ministers and everyone, and they have decided that Bhagwan Ram would be coronated as the prince. It's a collective decision by everybody, and that has to be now revealed. So Dashrath Maharaj calls him in the whole meeting, in the Sabha, and he declares to him that you are, in the Valmiki Ramayana it is said here, you have been born of my senior-most wife as a son worthy of myself, being senior-most in virtues as well. O Ram, you are my pet son, and all the people have been gratified by you through your excellent values, virtues, behavior. Therefore, accept the office of Prince Regent tomorrow. Now, when this is announced to him, there is no change on his face. He is not extremely elated. Oh, tomorrow I'm going to be made the prince. People saw absolutely no change on his face. Then we find later on that he goes to Kaushalya Devi. He goes to his room, but he doesn't find Sitaji there. Then he goes to Kaushalya Devi. And there he tells Kaushalya Devi that I have been entrusted by my father with the duty of ruling over the people. My installation will take place tomorrow as enjoined by father. A fast is to be kept tonight by Sita too along with me. Such is the injunction of my teachers. So now, when he revealed this to Kaushalya Devi also, Kaushalya Devi is very happy. Bhagwan Ram expresses his joy also, that this is what the father has is wanting from me, and we are going to fast tonight. He has not yet told to Sitaji. Sitaji was not there in the room when he went there. So he first told Kaushalya Devi, and he feels happy. Kaushalya Devi also is very happy. She blesses him. In front of Dashrath Maharaj, he didn't reveal anything. That was his control, his self-control. And he heard. Any of us could have got extremely elated. But he heard, he allowed that to sink in, and he leaves from there. Then he goes to his room and then to Kaushalya Devi's place. Now, before he can go to his place and explain anything to Sita ji, Kaikeyi has played her trick. And Dashrath Maharaj is absolutely devastated. He sends Sumantra. And he tells Sumantra that you please call Ram here. So Sumantra goes to call Bhagwan Ram. So when he goes there to call Bhagwan Ram, he is there with Sita ji. And he is about to reveal. There we find that he tells Sita ji very nicely how happy he is. See what he says here. His maximum happiness comes out in front of Sita ji. In front of Dashrath Maharaj it didn't come. In front of Kaushalya Devi it came out a little bit. In front of Sita ji now it comes out fully. And what he says, O godly lady, Devi Devascha Devi cha Samagamya Madantare Mantriyete Dhruvam Kinchit Abhishechana Samhitam. He says, O divine lady, the king, my father, and the queen, Mother Kaikeyi, are surely having some talk concerning me on the topic of my installation. And he is very happy about the installation. Sita ji is very thrilled. Both of them share that joy, their happiness with each other. And Bhagwan Ram also says that reading his mind and desires of pleasing him, that dark-eyed mother of mine, the daughter of the king of Kekayas, who is very clever and favorable to the king, who wishes well of him and is obedient to him, is my well-wisher too, is surely pressing the king on my behalf over the prospect of my installation. He is very happy. He has so much confidence in Kaikeyi because Kaikeyi also loved him a lot. So Bhagavan is expressing, Sri Ram is expressing his joy with Sita ji. Though it was said earlier, there was no change in his face. This is important to know. Also, the relationship between Sita ji and Bhagavan Ram is very intimate. They share. It's not that he was some kind of a person who condemned women or who did not treat Sita ji equally. So he shared the joy, and he was very happy. And he goes. Sumantra has come, so he goes. Now, when he goes to meet Kaikeyi and Dashrath Maharaj, what he finds there, Dashrath Maharaj is absolutely heartbroken. He's not even looking at Bhagwan Ram. And Kaikeyi is in a different mood. Bhagwan is little surprised, and Dashrath Maharaj is not even reciprocating his greeting. When Bhagwan went and he bowed down, he does not even reciprocate the greeting. So he feels very sad that what has happened here suddenly. And there Kaikeyi reveals to him that earlier two boons were given, and now I have asked those two boons, and those two boons are Bharatasya Abhishechanam Gamanam Dandakaranye Tavachadyaiva Raghava. I want Bharat to be coronated as the king, and you have to go to the forest. Now, when she says this, Bhagwan Ram, in his he listens to this, and at that point, you see in Valmiki Ramayana what is said. Itiva tasyam purusham vadantyam nachaiva rama pravivesha shokam. Nachaiva ramam pravivesha shokam. He did not go into grief. Na pravivesha shokam. Again in the next sarga, in the beginning he says, Shrutva na vivyathe ramaha kaikeim cha idam abravit. He did not have any distress in his heart to hear this message. And he told Kaikeyi that I will definitely go to the forest and I will happily let Bharat become the king or the prince here. What pains me is that my father is not even looking at me and he is not telling this to me. What wrong have I done? Look at his emotion that he is going through. At that time, he is not bothered about kingdom. He is bothered about this fact that what has happened to my father, or what have I done that he is not even looking at me and he is not telling me this news. And he says, I can even give up my life. I can give up Sitaji, who is my life. I can go and live in the forest alone. And I am going to proceed quickly, but my father, may he become favorable to me. The love for his father also comes out here beautifully. Kaikeyi is such a cruel mood that time, and she is got perverted completely. So she says that as long as you do not depart from this city, your father would neither bathe nor have his breakfast. Meaning that is the urgency. You leave quickly, immediately you need to leave. So Bhagwan felt the shoka not for being banished to the forest, but that his father was not looking at him. His father was crying there. He was weak and he couldn't understand what has happened here. The king, at that point, he drops down. Many times you will see in this whole prasang, the king becomes unconscious. Dasharatha Maharaj becomes unconscious so many times. Again, he drops down. He says, what a shame, how painful. He dropped down unconscious on the couch inlaid with gold. So, at that point, now you see what Bhagwan is replying to Kaikeyi. He says to her that, just bear with me. I will take leave of my mother and win the consent of Sita. See the respect also here. I have to win the consent of Sita. That's a very important expression here. Sitam cha anunayamyaham. Anunaya means that permission. I need to take her consent and then I have to proceed to the forest of Dandakaranya. I just bear with me for that much. I have to inform my mother and I have to win Sita's consent. Then I will go to the forest. And Bharat can protect the kingdom. I don't have any issue with that. All the while Dashrath Maharaj is only been crying and weeping. Now please remember this instance, again the self-control of the Lord is very high. It is not that he doesn't feel sorrow. In the Ramayana it is said very nicely here that Dharayan manasa dukkham indriyani nigrihyacha praviveshatmavan vesham maturapriya shamsivan. See that? Dharayan manasa dukkham. Tremendous sorrow. But he controls that sorrow. And that sorrow, when he has controlled his senses also. That it is not expressing. See, manasa dukkham, there is dukkha in the heart. And it will show on the face, in the body language, in the words that one speaks. But it is also said, Indriyani nigrihyacha. He has controlled his senses. He doesn't allow that to come out in front of his father, because already father is devastated. If he says, if he shows his sorrow, the father will be absolutely inconsolable, whatever it is. Sorry, I don't remember. But he controls completely, and he goes. He tells his mother, to Kaikeyi, to Kaushalya Devi, he goes and he tells that this has happened. With great balance, he says that I have to proceed to the forest, and that's what the father has told me. Gamishye Dandakaranyam Kimane Nasane me. He says, I have to go to the forest. He reveals. Now he comes to Sitaji. Now you see here, Sitaji doesn't know at all. When Ram has departed, it was a joyful mood in which he went, that, my father and Kaikeyi are definitely talking about my coronation, etc. And she went with him up to the gate, and she has been waiting there. When Bhagwan returns, now you see here, he comes completely depressed in spirits, lusterless, with frustration written large on his countenance. And Sitaji is wondering what has happened. His head is bent completely, and Sitaji was trembling when she saw that what has happened to him. Looking at her, the line here says, Tam drishtva sahi dharmatma nashashaka manogatam tam shokam raghava sodhum tato vivritatam gataha. He broke down. Completely he broke down in front of Sitaji. He cries in the lap of Sitaji, saying, what has happened? He doesn't explain anything. He just cries first. Seeing him of pale countenance, bathed in perspiration, unable to restrain his grief, Sita said, what is this now, my lord? So many preparations are happening and everybody is so enthusiastic, and all those things she describes here. Then she says, when the preparations for your consecration are complete, how is it that the color of your face appears so changed, and no great joy is perceived at this moment? Then he explains. He tells her that Itiva vilapantim tam provacha raghunandanaha site tatra bhavan stataha pravrajayati mam vanam. That, oh venerable lady, my father, who is so dear to me, my adorable father, is sending me into exile to the forest. I must take up my abode in the forest of Dandaka for 14 years, and Bharat has been nominated by my father for the office of Prince Regent. See, he breaks down fully in front of Sitaji only, which means that it is not that he never had any sorrow at all. As a human, he felt. And what is the feeling, the emotion that he felt? The emotion that he is feeling is, I have to go to the forest, leaving aside my entire family. And especially when he saw his father being so dejected, not able to utter any words, and he has to go, leaving his father. He says, my adorable father is sending me to the forest. And that is because of the two boons he gave. So he explained the whole thing. But also see now what happens in his mind. These are the human emotions he goes through. So he says that, I have come to see you while on my way to the lonely forest. He says, I should never be praised by you in presence of Bharat. First instruction he gives to Sitaji. Don't praise me in front of Bharat. Whenever you go to meet him or he calls you for some work or anything, don't praise me in front of Bharat. Why? Because, very interesting line he says here. Bharatasya samipete naham kathya kadachana. Riddhi yukta hi purusha na sahante parastavam. People of power may not be able to bear the glorification of others. Tasman nate guna kathya bharatasyagrato mama. Therefore, my virtues never should be extolled by you before Bharata. See, this he goes through. He has that feeling also that Bharat may not like my glorification. So he tells Sita, be careful, don't do this. And then he still feels that all the mothers, he says, you must take care of my father, you must take care of Kaushalya Devi, and ensure that you are equal to all the three mothers. He doesn't say that Kaikeyi, you should treat her badly. He says you treat her properly, since all mothers are equal in my eyes in point of affection and goodwill, and the way in which they have looked after me. So he gives these instructions. And he also says that no offense should be given to Bharat at any time, for he is the ruler of the country as well as of our family. These are things he feels. Now just think about it. What could be the feeling in his heart for Kaikeyi and for Bharat? Still he instructs Sita ji that don't treat them badly. This is called Dharma Palan. Not that he doesn't feel those emotions. Ahead you will see many other emotions he feels. But this is the strength, that we may feel any emotions, but we should not get completely carried away by them, that we'll end up doing adharma, we'll end up doing the wrong things, where we build dvesha in our heart. That dvesha will destroy us. It is not about other person, it is about our evolution. And where one has to put up a strong fight, one has to fight. There is no question about that also. It's not that one allows anybody to take one for a ride. Here it is not that anybody is taking Bhagwan for a ride. It is the vachan that his father has given to his mother, for which he has to bear these consequences. But he tells Sita ji, don't treat Bharat badly or Kaikeyi badly. Now, Sita ji replies, wherefore do you tender me this advice, which makes me look indeed so small, and which I am so amused to hear? What has been uttered by you is unworthy of valiant princes, adept in the use of weapons, missiles, and disgraceful to them, O ruler of men, and is not worth listening to. Sita ji is saying this. And this is not worthy advice that you are giving me. Please remember this. As a Kshatriya, one would expect Bhagwan to rebel, to fight for one's right. And you told me you will make me a prince, and I am now going to fight it out. I'm going to destroy Bharat. I'm going to destroy Kaikeyi, and I'm going to rightfully claim what is mine. He could have easily done that as a Kshatriya. But he doesn't do that. Because it's not about him. It is about his father's word. See, this is called Dharma Palan. When emotions run strong in our mind, we lose perspective of what is our identity primarily, from where we should operate. Here he is a son. He is not an individual. He has to go to a forest as a son. As an individual, he was found fit to rule the kingdom, so he would have been crowned the prince. But now if the king has given a promise to the queen, if that promise is not kept up, that king will go through trouble. Praja will lose the credibility. King will lose the credibility in front of the Praja. Plus, in his personal life, karmic issues will also happen. Many challenges will come. So, when to shift that standpoint is very important. Bhagwan knows that. People are there around him to say that, and he himself knows that he has a tremendous power to, what is it called? Coup. Do a coup and then take away the whole kingdom. And like what Kamsa did. Kamsa threw away his own father Ugrasena into jail. So many sons have done that to their fathers. He doesn't do that. That is called Dharma Palan. Now, further we go ahead, where we find that the argument that happens between Sita ji and Bhagwan Ram, where Sita ji is told to stay and take care of the in-laws and the mothers and all of them. I mean, the mother-in-laws, take care of all of them, help Bharat, etc. Then Sita ji says, the duty of the wife is to serve the husband, and I will be with you in happiness and sorrow, and all those arguments come. And then Bhagwan Ram tells her the challenges in the forest and how difficult life in the forest will be, and she says, I will overcome all those. For me, that is more better than living in a palace without you. All those arguments happen, and finally she tells Bhagwan Ram very clearly in such harsh words. She says that securing you as his son-in-law, O Ram, did my father, the king of Mithila, recognize you to be a woman in the form of a man? She repudiates him. He says, why have you become like this? Why are you so protective and you think that I should not come into the forest? Has my father married me to a man or a woman? Meaning, you are supposed to be valorous and glorious and strong, and you are acting like a weakling. See, these are the qualities that also show the strength of Sita ji, and she is not treated in Ramayana as some victim. And the freedom, that the relationship between Sita ji and Bhagwan Ram is so nice. They share everything, happiness and sorrow, and she even taunts him. She says, am I married to a man or a woman? Whom am I married to? It would be a matter of pity if the people of Ayodhya utter through ignorance the falsehood that supreme valor is lacking in Shri Ram, even though he blazes like sun. Look at these words that she says. On what ground are you cast down, or whence the fear in you for which you are inclined to desert me, exclusively devoted as I am to you? Just think about it. When already Bhagwan is going through this, Sri Ram is going through the sorrow that he has to leave everyone and go, and his father is in such a condition. At that time, Sita ji is saying all this. What will he go through? But see the response that he gives. He completely understands Sita ji's standpoint, and he says so nicely, he says, alas, nadevi bata dukkhena swargam apyabhirochaye nahi mesti bhayam kinchit swayambhoriva sarvatah. I find no delight even in heaven obtained by causing agony to you, O pious lady, nor is there fear to me from any quarter any more than to Lord Narayana. Not knowing your full mind, I did not approve of your sojourn in the forest, though capable of protecting you. Since you were born to dwell with me in the forest, you are incapable of being abandoned by me, even as compassion cannot be given up by a man of self-knowledge. This is his response. Just think about what a tremendous ability to not take things personally is there in Bhagwan Ram. Anybody else would have taken it personally, saying it's such an insult to me. I have been provoked and I have been accused of being a, what we call, the word she used is, are you a woman? Being a weakling and lacking in valor and all that. I am going to prove it. Come with me. What do you think of me? Nothing like that. He did not react in that way at all. Though he went through the challenges of the emotions and he felt sad. See, this is called strength of character. The ability to control emotions. One of the beautiful aspects of spiritual evolution is this. How do I know I'm evolving spiritually or not? The lesser I'm taking things personally and the more I'm taking things objectively, it means I am spiritually evolving. Where the focus remains on the main issue, not on validation or proving oneself or making people believe certain things that I want them to believe, that people should not think in a certain way about me and I want to change my opinion in their mind about me. One doesn't bother. One does what is one's duty. So Bhagwan very clearly clarifies that it is not that I am not capable of protecting you, It's only that I didn't know your mind. Now that I know that you are ready for all this, chalo, I am incapable of leaving you here. We will go. How quick is that transformation? You see that the shifting of standpoints is so fast. There is no dragging. Once he knows this is the mind of Sitaji, he evaluates this is dharma, this is righteous, she should come with me. He takes. There is no time lost in trying to prove to Sitaji that you want to see my valor. Come, let me show you my valor. Nothing. That is called trust between the two people. Sitaji has the freedom to speak what she spoke, and Bhagwan Ram does not take it personally. Look at the beauty of that relationship. And nor is Bhagwan Ram overreacting in this situation, feeling that how can my wife talk to me like this? I am superior, she is inferior, I should always show who is the boss here. None of that. All that is waste of time and emotions. How much energy is required for doing one's duty, dharma, to achieve higher goals, to evolve spiritually? Where is the time to do all this? A spiritual seeker will be very, very clear about these aspects. So the lesser we take things personally, if I feel hurt, first thing I should ask myself is, am I taking anything personally in this first? Before we blame circumstances, situations, or people, Bhagwan didn't blame anybody here. Before we do any of that, we should ask ourselves, what is it that I am taking personally? If I am taking anything personally, first I should become aware of that, because that will cloud my responses and reactions. Arjun shifted from the standpoint of a soldier to a grandson, to a disciple. Immediately emotions overwhelmed him, and he came to a wrong conclusion, that I better to go away and seek arms in the forest than to fight the war. When his standpoint shifted back with the right knowledge, his emotions got settled, higher purpose was shown to him, the bigger picture he saw, he was able to come back to his identity. And though there is pain in his heart when he's fighting with his grandfather and with his teacher, he still manages to fight. See, this is the power of spiritual knowledge. This is the power of self-mastery. All the spiritual disciplines are meant for this, to give us that ability to do our duty in spite of the challenges that we face, in spite of a certain amount of pain also that we may go through, in spite of certain amount of discomfort we may go through, that when we are not giving into our attachments and aversion, it is not going to be easy, because very easy it is to flow with attachments and aversions. But when we hold back, there is a certain discomfort. That discomfort, one who is able to go through, not escape from it, not run away from it, go through that, still be able to do the duty with whatever capacity one has. See, we may not have full 100% capacity at this moment to put aside everything and just do duty. But to do the duty in spite of what we are feeling, that is our strength. So if we feel that, no, I should not feel this at all, no, then full integration of personality, if it has happened, then one would have realized the truth. Please remember, this is not to justify any weakness, but it is to not put ourselves into a guilt trip, not to condemn ourselves, not to feel that, I don't think I can ever achieve any spiritual progress. My mind is filled with so many of these things. Because mind has all these, only I need spiritual knowledge. And what I need to develop is that capability and strength not to get overwhelmed by this, and still do my duty. Then slowly, slowly, I will overcome the negativities. In spite of feeling jealous of somebody, I should be able to go and, let us say, compliment them on certain good things that they have done, congratulate them on their success. At least some part should have that genuine admiration, that it is great what they achieved. In spite of feeling greedy, there should be some part which is feeling content, and one should encourage that part. So that disintegration which is there, slowly we get into that state of integration when we let go of the lower by holding on to the higher. Not that this is going to happen once. So once I hold the higher, everything lower will go away. No, there's a battle that will continuously go on. That is, every moment is a struggle. Temptations come, distractions come, internal memories come, attachments come, anger comes, so many things come. In any situation, not to be overwhelmed and still go on doing the duty, that is called inner strength. So now, this is what we see Bhagavan goes through. So it's not that he went through, he was peaceful before, he was peaceful after, he is always equanimous, so wonderful Bhagavan he is. See, as a Lord, he is wonderful, he is able to do all that. When we look at him as God and we have that devotion and surrender, we will learn some of those qualities, that he was equanimous, let me be equanimous. But in Valmiki Ramayana, what we find, that he goes through all these emotions, so it becomes more relatable for us, that, oh, if he can go through this, I am going through this. That is human. But I should also behave like him, where he stood steadfast in dharma. He did not allow emotions to overwhelm. He continues to put others before him. He puts Sita ji before him, he puts Lakshman before him, he puts Bharat ji before him, he puts Dashrath Maharaj before him. He doesn't think about himself first. He thinks about everyone else, even though he is going through all this. And even though he feels, that injustice has been done to him, still he says to Sita ji that don't treat Kaikeyi badly, don't treat Bharat badly. That is called dharma. That is called righteousness. So, now you see one emotion, some things that he feels. About Sita ji's episode we saw. Now when he meets Lakshman ji, and Lakshman ji tells him that, you and Sita ji are going, let me come with you, I will serve you. He spoke to both, Bhagavan and Sita ji are together, so he spoke to both of them, saying that if your mind is set on proceeding to the forest full of deer and elephant, I shall accompany you to the woodland, walking ahead of you armed with a bow. Accompanied by me, you will roam about in the delightful woodlands, rendered noisy all around by birds and swarms of deers. Without you, I do not wish to ascend to heaven, nor do I solicit godhood, nor again do I crave for the rulership of the spheres. This is the devotion of Lakshmanji. He says, without you, I want nothing. And again, Bhagavan tells him, and Lakshmanji goes ahead to say that without you, I cannot live, he says, and he very cheekily he says, even though I stand already permitted by you, how am I being prohibited anew this moment? Which means what? He says, you see, always I have been with you from childhood. I have been together with you only, everywhere. So naturally I will come to the forest also. Suddenly now, why are you prohibiting me from going into the forest with you? Meaning I am like your shadow. You can't separate me from you. So to him, Bhagavan Ram says that, Lakshman, you have to be here. Very important it is. Why? Because obtaining this kingdom, Kaikeyi will certainly not accord good treatment to her afflicted co-wives. Meaning Kaikeyi may treat Kaushalya Devi and Sumitra ji very badly. So you must be here. And having attained sovereignty, Bharat will not maintain the extremely miserable Kausalya and Sumitra, devoted as he is, to Kaikeyi, meaning Bharat also will not take care. See this emotion that he is going through for Bharat. At that point, he doesn't know Bharat's mind. He has understood Bharat before, as children they have grown through, and he knows love of Bharat for him. That same way, he also knew love of Kaikeyi for him. But now suddenly this Kaikeyi has taken this turn. So now Bhagavan does not know. This is a human aspect. He doesn't know what is Bharat's mind. He says Bharat may not take care. So now you have to be here, because if I go, Bharat and Kaikeyi are not going to take care of the two mothers, then what is going to happen? So he says, for my sake, do as I've said and do not leave the mothers. And Lakshmanji, he says that, both these mothers are very well capable of taking care of themselves. And if required, I will make short work not only of the evil-minded and cruel fellow, Bharat, but all the other adherents too. I will destroy all of them. Just give me that command. Who is Bharat to even, ill-treat our mothers? I will make short work of him. And Kaushalya ji is worthy of the highest respects, and she can support thousands like me. So who am I to support Kaushalya Devi? She is such a glorious, powerful lady. She will support thousands of people like me. And as such, high-minded Kaushalya is capable of maintaining herself as well as myself, and even so my mother and those like me. So I will come with you. So finally Bhagavan Ram says, okay, chalo, you also come. No problem. Come along. So these emotions that he is going through about Kaikeyi, about Bharat, are the human emotions that he goes through. These are aspects which make us understand that suspicion. He goes through suspicion. And further, it also comes where they all go, they leave they leave Ayodhya, and Sumantra is taking them. And when they cross the Saryu, they cross the Tamasa, there they find that finally Bhagavan has to tell Sumantra, now you return. Sumantra is not ready to return. When Sumantra does not want to return, he says that Sumantra is like it is said in Valmiki Ramayana, Sumantra is like a person caught between the front and the back wheels of a chariot. Tishteti Raja Chukrosha Yahi Yahiti Raghavaha Sumantrasya Babhuvatma Chakrayoriva Chantara. Because the king, what is the king's command? The king's command is you always be with Ram and take care of Ram. And what is Bhagavan Ram's command? Yahi Yahi iti Raghavaha. He says, you go. Now I am stuck. Whose command do I obey? You please tell me. So Bhagavan Ram tells him at that point in time that you are perhaps afraid that when you go back, Dasharath Maharaj will be very angry at you for disobeying him and leaving me in the forest. But please remember this. If my father on your return should take you to task for disobedience, just say that in the bustle and noise, you did not hear him. Nashrausamiti Rajanam Upalabdhopi Vakshasi. Nashrausham, saying, oh king, there was so much of commotion all around, and there is so much of sorrow and crying and grieving, and a lot of things were going on. So in that commotion, I couldn't hear what you said. So I did my duty, I left him and came back. This is an example of white lies. See, Bhagavan goes through what he is telling Sumantra to tell lies. But please remember, this is not any excuse for us to do whatever we want to do in the name of white lies. No, 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 no. The logic Bhagavan gives here. See, chiram dukkhasya papishtham iti ramastam abravit. Chiram dukkhasya papishtham. What is the meaning of that? It is foolish to prolong the sorrow of Dashrath Maharaj. It is absolutely foolish and disastrous to prolong the veil of grief. So go on and tell Dashrath Maharaj this, that Ram told me to come back and I had not heard this what you told me. Please remember, white lies comes in what context? Where there is no selfish interest and that is only a question of some good that has to happen. What does Sumantra have to gain out of this white lie? Nothing. What does Bhagwan Ram have to gain out of the white lie? Nothing. In fact, Bhagwan has more to gain by Sumantra following the orders of the Lord, saying that you be with Ram. But he tells Sumantra, you go back and tell him that I didn't hear this, so that you will be saved. And also, very importantly, Dashrath Maharaj will be safe. Because Kaikeyi, see, he always feels that one aspect is very evidently there in Valmiki Ramayana, that he feels that Kaikeyi may do something more nasty. She will not stop with this. So he wants as much support as possible for Dashrath Maharaj there. So he says, you go, and you are his charioteer, you are well tuned with him. So you have to be there around him. And don't prolong his veil. Because if he doesn't come back, Dashrath Maharaj also will keep wondering what happened. Bhagwan went away 14 years. He says, you go back and tell him we are well. And you have left us here and we are doing well here. And there are, he saw all the Nishad Raj and all of them. So he says, they all are there, so don't worry. So go and assure him. Now, when all this has happened, he tells Sumantra this. My stepmother Kaikeyi is a hard-natured, hard-hearted woman. She will want to be sure that I have really come to the forest. If she suspects anything, woe be to my father. Means, it is not only for Dashrath Maharaj you are going, you are also going for Kaikeyi to get assurance that I have indeed gone to forest and I am living like a tapasvi. Because that is the boon that she asked. He cannot live in the forest with all the pomp and luxury. He has to live in tapasvi vesh. So you go back. And he says this penalty of this will fall on him. If Kaikeyi doubts that I have not gone to forest, the penalty will fall on him. If you go back without me and explain that what has been happening here, all will be safe. She will understand that the old man has kept his word and I have obeyed him. So your presence in Ayodhya without us is therefore essential for the safety of my father. See, this is the reason. If this has to happen, then he has to tell. And in that, to tell a small lie that I didn't hear you is all right. Now, all this while, Bhagwan was in complete control of his emotions. Though he felt sad, he broke down in front of Sita ji. But he has to hold his restraint, because if he breaks down, the entire Praja, all the other two mothers and Dashrath Maharaj, ministers, everybody will collapse completely. He has that weight on him, even though he is not yet the crown prince, because people love him so much for all his qualities and for all his bravery, valor, compassion, everything. And to maintain the father's honor, he has risked everything. He has left everything. The kingdom, parents, everyone he has left and he has come. Now, he did not show his dejection or depression or anything. Even this most difficult, misfortunate, unfortunate circumstance, he says, he was so balanced in that. But now, when he is alone with Lakshmanji and Sita ji, both of them, he considers them as not different from him. So as though he is alone now. he breaks down like never before. He just breaks down so much, and he gives vent to his own inner feelings, and without restraint he speaks, without any regard for any outer appearance, that what would Lakshman think, what would Sita think, because they both are he thinks both of them are one with him. That is their bond that they share. So he goes through. What does he go through? Now think of this. He suspects that Kaikeyi will kill Dashrath Maharaj. He says she will be glad now. Kaikeyi will be very happy. Kritakama tu Kaikeyi tushta bhavitumarhati sahi devi maharajam Kaikeyi rajya karanat apinatyavayet pranan drishtva bharatam agatam. This is Bhagwan Ram saying that Kaikeyi will be very happy, but seeing that her son has come to Ayodhya, her ambition may rise. Instead of making her son a mere Yuvraj, the idea of making him a king may occur to her, and she may practice on the life of my father. I hope she will not deprive him of his life. So he suspects this Kaikeyi may do this. And he also thinks that Dashrath Maharaj has become very weak at this moment. He says, this old, imbecile, helpless man left without me to guard him, having fallen into the hands of Kaikeyi, infatuated with love of her, what will be his fate? And look at the words he utters for his own father. He says, of the three Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha and Kama, I now see, watching my father and his behavior, that Artha and Dharma take their place below Kama, meaning he is so attached to Kaikeyi that he has given in. See, the boon is a different part. The attachment to Kaikeyi is another part. For the sake of the boon, he came. And that boon was given by the king to the queen. But as the husband to the wife, he is attached here. And he says, Kama is ruling. Then he says, I am a son out of the common. I am an obedient son, a son whom any father would like to keep about him. And yet, under the pressure of the woman on whom he dotes, he sends me away. This is victimization. See, please remember one thing. None of this is to pull down Bhagwan Ram from his glorious stature. It is to make us understand that we must lift ourselves to the heights of Bhagwan Ram following dharma. That in spite of these emotions in him, look at what he tells Bharat. Second time when Kaikeyi herself has come to call him back, Bharat has gone to call him back, he does not return. This is called dharma palan. And please remember, this is not hypocrisy. Something inside, something outside. No, where you should know what are your roles. Each one of us should know what are our roles. That at this time, what is my responsibility? What is the implication of my actions? If I break down now, what will happen? And one must control. And when it has to be at the appropriate time, when appropriate circumstances are there, then one breaks down. So it's not that one suppresses, and there's no hypocrisy in this. In a hypocrite's life, the lower nature is predominant, and now and then they will do a show of higher nature to impress people. That is called hypocrisy. But in a spiritual seeker, the higher nature is always predominant. Now and then the seeker may fall to the lower sometimes, but will quickly pull oneself up. Many times we don't understand this difference, so we think of ourselves as hypocrites, or we condemn some others as hypocrites. Hypocrisy is where selfishness is at the peak, and one portrays a false image to gain some benefit. In a spiritual seeker's life, that is not that, then that person is not a spiritual seeker. In a spiritual seeker's life, if people feel all the time they should always be only in the highest level, it is not possible. Mind goes through ups and downs. But important point is not to succumb to the lower. Pull ourselves up. Gurudev always used to say the glory in life is not to never fall. The glory in life is always to rise higher every time we fall. Fall will happen to every one of us. And in the Gita, that's why it is said, Uddhared Atmana Atmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. Because we are already fallen. And in the spiritual life, there will be many times falls will happen. Our mind tricks us, our ego tricks us, our emotions trick us, we fall, our body, the temptations, so many things are there, we will fall. But we should know how to lift ourselves up. And what will be the anchor for that? Dharma is the anchor, bhakti is the anchor, sharanagati is the anchor, jnana is the anchor, seva is the anchor. You know, like a drowning person, something is given to support, a stick is given, or a a life-saving jacket is given. One holds on to that. Like that, we have to hold on to any of these and lift ourselves. Now see here what Bhagavan Ram spoke. He said this, under the pressure of this woman, he dotes, he sends me away. And now he compares, see the comparison that he does now. He compares himself with Bharat and contrasts actually. This comparison is a complete contrast. What does he say? He says, Sukhi batasa bharyascha bharata kaikai sutaha muditan kosalane ko yobhokshyatyathirajavat. So he says, I have lost everything. I have come away to the forest with my wife and with my dear brother. But Bharat is enthroned. He is going to rule over the Kosalas, and he is going to do it with his wife. He is going to have his queen by his side. Think about that. He contrasts that, look at Bharat's condition, look at my condition. What am I come to? And I don't deserve this. But I have been exiled completely away from my parents. My kingdom is gone. And now I'm here alone in the forest. Father is old and can take no part in the affairs. I am away, so Bharat will be the sole monarch of the whole place. And he will determine the fortunes of all people in Ayodhya. Further, he goes ahead to even think that Kaikeyi may poison the other mothers. Paridadhyahi dharmagne bharate mama mataram shudra karma hi Kaikeyi dveshad anyayam macharet. She may even poison my other mothers. See, all these are to reveal that he goes through all these human aspects. And then he looks at himself and he says, what is my power? Eko hyaham ayodhyam cha prithivim chapi lakshmana tareyam ishubhik kruddho nanu viryama karanam. He says, what do you take me to be? You know my strength, O Lakshman. You know my valor. You know my prowess. By means of my arrows, I can reconquer the whole world if only I care. I am strong enough to bring under my umbrella the whole of this girdled earth, but I won't. See that the strength. He says, I am strong, but I will not do this. Why? Now comes the most beautiful shloka. We should remember this shloka. Adharma bhaya bhitascha paralokasya chanagha tena lakshmana nadyaham atmanam abhishechaye. Very, very powerful. Ayodhya Kand, 53rd chapter, 26th shloka. Adharma bhaya bhitascha. He says, I am scared of doing adharma. Because there is no greater folly and fall than adharma. He said, I could have anointed myself, putting aside Dashrath, putting aside everybody else. But why did I not do that? He says, I have a fear of doing the wrong. I cannot do the wrong. I cannot do adharma. And what is ignoble, improper, just for some petty gain, I don't want to do that. Adharma bhaya bhitascha paralokasya chanagha. And it will not be good in this loka and in paraloka, in both. And that is why I have not anointed myself onto that throne. Otherwise, I could have done it. Easily I could have done. There is nobody can prevent me from doing that. Now this is what we should remember. Today we have lost the fear of adharma. We have lost the fear of God also. Ishvara and dharma. We should have both the fear of both these. That if I do adharma, so please remember, when we do adharma, it is the law of karma that will catch up. Whether we escape from the eyes of the world or CBI or any investigating agency, it does not matter. Law of karma will catch up. Whenever the external result has to come, it will come. But internally, the weakness starts. The person starts disintegrating already. The moment we do wrong things, there will be guilt, fear, heavy heart, insecurity, so many problems they start. One may ignore it, one may try to escape from it, one may try to revel more in sense enjoyments, all that one may do. Think about it, Ravan, what was his condition? One adharma that he did, he kidnapped Sita ji, entire Kula got destroyed. And what a life he led after he kidnapped Sita ji. So, fear of God, see, devotion to the Lord definitely should be there. If that devotion is there, one will follow dharma. But if devotion is not there, at least be scared that there is a supreme intelligence in our heart and all around us, which is watching, which is observing. And that same Lord itself is dharma. One of the names of Supreme Lord in Vishnu Sahasranam is dharma. Dharmo dharma vidamneta. That's the shloka comes there. Dharma, he is dharma. So following dharma is very important. One shloka comes, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. That's only one half. Those who protect dharma, dharma protects them. But the second half says, those who destroy dharma, that adharma destroys them. So adharma will destroy us. It is not about anybody else or a property or anything else. It will destroy our goodness, our positivity, our freedom, our purity of mind, our fearlessness. It will destroy all that, make us miserable. Still we go on doing adharma because pulled by the lower. Now Bhagwan himself says that I will not do adharma. This is called anchoring in dharma. And that's what Bhagwan's life is for, to establish this aspect that let there be dharma palan in all situations. All this when he broke down and he expressed, finally what happened? Ashru Purna Mukho Ramo Nishitushnimu Pavishat. He cried, he broke down, he cried, he explained all this, vented out all his feelings, completely became silent. Venting out also is important. Bhagwan needed that venting. And he chose the right time for that venting. He chose the right people for that venting, who will not misunderstand him, who will know what is his situation, and who will not give him advice at that time. In Valmiki Ramayana, we don't find advice is being given, oh Ram, why are you feeling all this? You should not feel any of this. Nothing. They just heard. Bhagwan explained all this. And he became quiet, they became quiet. So that is another aspect of his life as a human. Now we see that Bharat and Kaikeyi and all of them have come to take back Bhagwan Ram. See, first time he went on the command of the father. Actually, the father didn't even say it. It is the Kaikeyi who said, these are the boons and you have to go. So he renounced the kingdom. Second time also he renounces the kingdom. That is his glory and his greatness. Anybody else in his place would have said, chalo, I am going to go back. I deserve it. After what you heard, anybody would have said that or not. I am so great. I can take up this whole throne by myself. I can conquer the entire 3 worlds. What to talk about this kingdom in Ayodhya? All that he said. Anybody would have gone back. And how many options were given to him? Bharat said, I will go to forest instead of you, but you return. Kaikeyi also says that you come. I sent you away. I am telling you, you come. Many options were given to him. We will crown you here. You rule from here. He didn't accept any of them. And the best part is, I'm not going to go into much detail in terms of shlokas, etc. But point to understand here is this. When Bharat and all the mothers go to welcome him, to call him back, he goes and meets Kaikeyi first. This is why I call it is Dharma Palan. That how strong is the mind of Bhagavan Ram, that though he has suspected Kaikeyi, she can do this, she can do that, all that, and it is all gone out of his mind once he has vented it out. And when he sees that they all have come, he goes and meets Kaikeyi first. And he assures Kaikeyi, don't worry, this is a play of fate. And he also tells Bharat when he is returning, don't treat Mother Kaikeyi badly. 14 years now he has to be in forest, and Bharat has to go back with the Padukas. That time the last upadesh he gives to Bharat is, don't ill-treat Mother Kaikeyi. She is your mother. And it was fate, karma that played its part. Don't blame her for it. This is called Dharmapala. So when they all go to receive him, they give him many options. He says, no, father gave 2 boons and he sticks to those 2 as they are. No compromise is made. First boon was, I have to be in forest. Second boon was, you have to rule the kingdom. There cannot be a change in this, because this is the boon that father gave. And now that father has passed on, even with his consent, now it is not possible to change that, because he is gone. And only when this is complete, his word would have been fulfilled. So we have to keep up his word. So he doesn't return. He doesn't go back at all. And he says, Bharat, you have to also follow. Neither of us can compromise. You cannot say that you will be in forest with me and let somebody else rule. That is not possible. You cannot say that I should be in the kingdom and you will be in the forest. That is also not possible. We have to complete this as it is, fully. And you see at the end of Valmiki Ramayana, it comes that when 14 years are complete, Dashrath Maharaj appears and tells Bhagavan Ram that now that you have fulfilled the word that I had given, I feel absolutely satisfied, and now I will ascend to higher lokas. So this is his Dharma Palan. Many such instances come about his Dharma Palan. From different Kands we can take. Ayodhya Kand I spoke about. In Aranya Kand it comes. He has, you know, he humorously he takes a joke on, you know, Shurpanakha. Shurpanakha comes as a monster only there. She doesn't come as a beautiful woman there. And Bhagavan directs her to Lakshman, saying, you know, he is unmarried. And there, unmarried is not a lie. Unmarried, there is a joke there. He says, he is unmarried, you go. He doesn't have a wife here. You go there. He tells her that I am a servant of him. Will you be a servant of this servant? That does not befit you. You better marry him. They play a joke on Shurpanakha. But the consequence of it happens. Many commentators on Valmiki Ramayana, they have also said that this is the seed for the entire Ramayana afterwards. That Shurpanakha is not able to bear that insult, and her nose is chopped, her ears are chopped, and she goes and she sends this demons, Khar and Dushan and all of that, and then they are killed in Janasthan, and then she goes to Ravan, provokes him, and the whole Ramayana happened, the rest of it. So humor also, Bhagavan shows in that situation that humor also one has to be very alert and careful, otherwise it will backfire. So many times we say something casually in humor, but it can hurt the opposite person, and then the consequences one has to bear. So we find that in Aranyakand it happens. Then we find in the Aranyakand, sorry, in the Kishkinda Kand, see the expressions Bhagwan has given when he is searching for Mother Sita. You read that portion of Valmiki Ramayana, it is heart touching. How he cries like a mad person. He is asking Mother Godavari that, where is my Sita? He is asking a deer, where is my Sita? He is asking flowers, where is Sita? He is asking the clouds, he is asking the trees, he is telling the stars, he is asking the devatas, so many, he is lamenting his anguish, and then he gets angry also. He says, I am going to dry away this whole Godavari. I am going to destroy the three worlds. I am going to finish off these devatas. What do they think? None of them are answering me that where is my Sita? And please remember, at that time, even today, we all believe that all these are not inert things. River is not just water flowing. Godavari is a Devi. Ganga ji is a Devi. Yamuna ji is a Devi. Like that, Godavari is a Devi. The trees, mountains, everything in one place. In one place, he says, "Mountain, now you better tell me that where is Sita? Are you hiding Sita, or has somebody kidnapped? Tell me now, otherwise I will blast you to pieces." The anger that he gives vent to is just terrific. First, there is extreme sorrow, weeping, wailing. To what extent that in Tulsi Ramayana we find that Mother Parvati gets deluded, saying, "Is this God? Why is he weeping for his wife like this?" People don't see any of this. They just simply think that, unfairly he banished Sita away to the forest. Who is this Ram? Is patriarchy, falana, thikana, all nonsense. If you analyze the Sambandha of Bhagwan Ram and Sita ji, there is so much to learn. How he lamented for Sita ji. There are chapters and chapters given there in Valmiki Ramayana. How he cries for Sita ji. What feeling he had, that it literally appears like a completely deluded, attached person who is a fool. People think to that extent that what a fool is he to cry like this for his wife. Again, that human emotion comes there, that he loves Sita ji so much. And in that portion, you will find two extremities. One is absolute sadness, other is complete anger. He takes out his arrow as though and he's about to burn the three worlds. He says, I will destroy. Where is my Sita? Better people tell me. Because nobody is replying. That is the expression in the Valmiki Ramayana. Plants, birds, animals, humans, the, devatas, the celestial beings, nobody is replying. He says, what is this happening? And in that extreme anger, you see, and there Lakshmanji is consoling Bhagwan Ram. And he says that also, generally you are the one who always console me, but at this point I have to console you, not that you are any lesser. I am only trying to invoke the goodness in you, to remind you of your own glory, that you have always been calm, composed, balanced. And right now we have to search Sita ji with more intensity. So if you control yourself, we will be able to search better. See, all this is there in Valmiki Ramayana. I don't have time to quote so many things, but beautiful descriptions are there. In one place in Kishkinda Kand, where this Sugriv has forgotten that he has to send search parties. So Sugriv, he has Vali has been killed. Sugriv got the kingdom. He got back his wife, and now 4 months of monsoon, so they all are waiting. When the monsoon ends, then we can start. In that, Sugriv became absolutely indulgent, and Bhagwan feels insecure there. See, that insecurity comes there. And he says, having regained his wife and obtained his kingdom, Sugriv is happy, but I pine here while he is enjoying himself. So he feels very jealous of Sugriv, and Lakshmanji is consoling him, saying, and he gets angry again. He says, I'm going to kill this Sugriv also. So Lakshmanji is telling him this, that please wait patiently until Sharat comes. We have got to wait 4 months and you are already getting impatient. Oh Lord, please calm down. Wait until autumn comes. You are not an impatient person. You are strong enough by yourself to get all you want in this world, and you are competent by your own unaided strength of conquer. You have now got Sugriva and there is no need to lose your patience. Bhagwan is consoled, saying, please, please have patience. 4 months get over. Then Bhagwan sends Lakshmanji with a message. Lakshmanji adds his masala to that, and when he sees Sugriv, he gets absolutely furious. Completely angry he gets, and he is ready to kill Sugriv. But what has Sugriv done till then? Hanumanji sensed this, that now these 4 months are coming to an end and this Sugriv is only enjoying. So he tells Sugriv, and he tells that, this is not befitting you, you need to do something. So he tells him, the time is up, please wake up and do your duty. So Sugriv orders his commander-in-chief and he tells them to gather monkeys, and he says, tell them in 15 days all must be here. If they don't report here in 15 days, I will kill all of them. And he says, when they gather, when the monkeys assemble here, do everything yourself, Hanuman, and don't wait for me to give orders. Meaning, I am going to be enjoying. I am not going to do anything. You do anything that is required and go and search for Sita. This is his level of indulgence of Sugriv. So Lakshmanji gets very, very angry. And it is finally that, the wife, so Tara has to come, and Tara consoles Lakshmanji, saying that my husband has already given the necessary orders and the monkeys will come. On the 15th day, you will see them crores upon crores. And so don't worry. And she consoles him. And then finally Lakshmanji says, I am sorry, please forgive me. I lost my temper because I could not bear my brother pining there. Please go to him and tell him a word of consolation. Then Sugriv goes and he tells Bhagwan Ram what has been done, and finally Bhagwan becomes peaceful and quiet. This is in the Kishkinda Kand. I've just taken a few episodes. There are many in the whole Ramayana like that, one can go on. In the Yuddha Kand, we will see one episode which comes. Many episodes are there. In one episode, it is that everybody is doubting, Vibhishan Sharanagati. Vibhishan has come to take refuge of the Lord. And everybody says, no, don't accept him. He may be a messenger. He may be a spy of Ravan, and he may even kill you. Sugriv says that. He may even kill you, finding you unguarded at some point in time. He may attempt on your life and he may kill you. That may be Ravan's strategy. Don't trust him. Jambavan, Sugriv, Nal, Nil, everybody there says, don't accept Vibhishan. Hanumanji alone says, you should accept him. He comes taking your refuge. And Hanumanji has met him in Sundarkand before. So Bhagwan doesn't follow majority rule there. He listens to the practical advice of Hanumanji. He believes Hanumanji. And he tells Sugriv and everybody that this is my boon, my promise, that anybody who takes my refuge even once, I grant that person fearlessness. And here he has come taking my refuge, so I will keep him. And the same Vibhishan, when he is not wanting to do the Agni Kriya of Ravan, it is Bhagwan who tells him that why are you incurring sin? Ravan has already died. Drop your dvesha against him. Do your duty. And he makes Vibhishan do the Agni Samskar. So like that we find in the whole Ramayana, when Agni Pariksha of Sitaji is happening, he did not tell Sitaji to enter into fire. He tells her, go where you want. We only see that episode in isolation. We don't see the all the other things that have happened before, what is the trust between each other, how he pines for her, etc. And he feels sad. Those lines are there in Valmiki Ramayana, and in the earlier session, Sita, victim or victor, it was clarified beautifully. Bhagwan feels very sad that people are going to doubt her and this is not going to be good. And he feels sad that Sita has to prove her purity because now she's going to return as queen. That's why he tells her to take bath and come and wear jewelry and good clothes, etc., and come, because she's not coming now as a tapaswini or as a wife of Bhagwan Ram. She's coming as a queen, and they have to return that way. And lastly, the episode which is very, very touching is also this, that when they are returning, Bhagwan could have easily returned, because Bharat said, if you delay by one moment also, I will commit suicide. He sends Hanumanji before. Bhagwan sends Hanumanji before, and he says, go and see the face of Bharat when you give him the news that I am going to come. If there is even a slight sorrow on his face that, oh, Bhagwan is coming back, immediately come and tell me, I will not return. Why? Because 14 years of wielding power, it is possible that one may get attached to it and one may not want to give it up. And if Bharat is ruling the kingdom, I don't have any problem. I don't want to snatch it away from him. So just see that and come back to me. And when Hanumanji returns, he is so seeing that Bharatji is ready to jump into fire. He says, wait, the Lord is coming. And then he goes back and gives the sandesh to Bhagwan. These are the human aspects of Sri Ram. That he not only knows his mind and knows to master his mind and has lived in that mastery, but he knows the minds of people around. What would they be feeling and how to appropriately behave with them. So the purpose of Bhagwan's avatar gets served when we learn these aspects from his life, and we learn to master ourselves, integrate our mind with the higher intelligence that we have, and finally discover the Supreme Self in us, who is Atma Ram. So may the grace of Bhagwan Ram be with us and help us in this self-mastery and self-discovery. Hari Om. Thank you very much. So this is where we will stop. And if there are any questions, we may take for 5-10 minutes and then proceed to announcements. If anybody has questions, you can raise your hand. Sahana. Yes.
Yes. Sir, when you were talking about the Sita, when she was about to, she was after in Uttarakandam, she was sent to go and sit in fire. But why didn't she burn up? Because when somebody sits on fire, obviously they'll burn.
See, that is possible. Generally, with fire, one will burn. But in those days, it was such that somebody who has held that purity of mind, the elements also will change. So if the person is very truthful, righteous, then the fire will not burn. Please remember, it is in those days that level of purity was there in the minds of people. And so that was a pariksha. And in many places, it was also a pariksha where they would take a leaf and they would keep in their hand, and the hot piece of iron is kept, and that will not burn them. So like that, there are those ways to discover the ethical or the moral purity of a person, where the element also will change its behavior.
Sir, but Hanuman, like Sita did penance, so Hanuman was not burnt in his tail, correct?
No. Hanuman was not burnt in the tail because of Hanuman's glory. And it was not that it was only Sitaji's penance.
Both of them.
Mainly Hanumanji. Of course, Hanumanji would say it is grace of Bhagwan Ram and Sitaji. So you can say both of them.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Ananta.
Hari Om Swamiji, beautiful session. Two questions. One, that since Ma Janki was doubted in Ayodhya, not by the Vanar Jati, so Bhagwanji does not give her Agni Pariksha, she wants to do it herself. But why wasn't the stage built and this done in Ayodhya itself? Because actual doubt and actual proving तो अयोध्या के लोगों को चाहिए थी, वानरों को तो चाहिए नहीं थी. And दूसरी चीज, also what about the human side of Ma Janki? Like you explained the human side of Bhagwan Ram very well. Similarly, आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह समझा. I've enjoyed this session today. I've enjoyed this session the most. Also, how do we see the human side of Ma Janki?
I will do another session for it. Right now, I can't speak. Another 1 hour, 2 hours will be required for it. But see, the question about Agni Pariksha is, we should also remember this one fact, that it is not just about the Ayodhya Vasis. It is also about the fact that the Vanar Sena has sacrificed a lot. For them, it is important to know for whom they have done this. Who is this Sitaji? The whole bridge was built, so many Vanaras died, so many bears died, all of that happened. The end result for whom this was done, if that end result is glorious, then they feel it is all worth it. It's a very important aspect in team building and leadership, that the leader must be able to make the team understand the value, the worth of their effort and the sacrifice by the glory of the goal. So when Agni Pariksha is done there, Vanaras also feel very happy. Point one. Point two, when Bhagwan takes her, it means Bhagwan has approved completely. And then it is only the question of Ayodhya Vasis. But in this context, after remaining 14 years, after remaining for 1 year in that Ravan's place, it cannot be delayed. It has to be done that very moment when she is welcomed by Bhagwan Ram there. If it is delayed, there are a lot of unnecessary issues people can cite as a compromise, which is what we have to understand, that as a king, there cannot be even a slight error for compromise. That slight error would be there, that Ram has accepted Sita with whatever her conduct is. So now he is only trying to justify her conduct in front of us, so our wives also can do all that. So that Ayodhya Vasis would have a very big excuse for it. And forget Ayodhya Vasis, they anyway had excuse for it because that is the nature of people. But as I said, in the conduct of the Lord, there cannot be a lapse there, even as a human, even as a king. So it has to be done there only, and that's why it is done there. Pooja Ramchandani.
Hari Om Swamiji. Thank you for a beautiful session, Swamiji. Swamiji, I have a very simple question. You know, when the Lord, faces a situation, and he is able to, move in action and keep the dharma, aspect always in front of him. As an average human being, when we make our decisions on a day-to-day life, in our day-to-day lives, we sometimes think that we are making a decision which is correct. How do we know that we are also, upholding our dharma while making those correct decisions? Is there a way to check, that some decisions that we make are also doing the dharma palan, and not just because we think they are right, they should be right?
Yeah, I got your question. So the point to understand here is two very important points are there. One is there are values, universal values, which will help us. Is our decision in can I mute you? There's a lot of background noise. Yeah, so there is so one aspect is there are universal values which we must always keep in mind, and these sets of values you will find in the Gita also, in various places, Ramayana also, in Smritis also. Is our decision in tuned with the universal values, and those values are a very simple aspect which will help us to understand the fact that do unto others what you want them to do to you, meaning be sensitive and put yourself in others' shoes also to understand. Then we will know what is dharma. Second is what is our role that we have to play, which is the role based on which I am taking this decision. The role clarity must be there. These two are very important points. And the last one is, if I lift myself out of my ego and see as a third person, then I will know whether the decision is right or wrong. Many times we are clouded because we see it from our standpoint as an individual, as an ego. If we put aside that ego and watch from the standpoint of any objective person or a higher role model, or let us say what would Sri Ram do in this situation, or what would my teacher do in this situation, or what would my elder person do in this situation, whoever is inspiring to you, then based on that we can come to discover that whether our decision is right or is there some clouding in the judgment. So these are broad criteria: our stage in life, our role in life, our duties which are corresponding to that role. Am I doing or am I escaping? These factors can help us to determine what is the decision, is it right or is it wrong. All this you can apply even for Arjun, and you will see that earlier this was not applicable to him. He was not taking the decision as a right person with the right identity, and it was not for the well-being of all. He was not doing his Kshatriya dharma. So from all those standpoints, if we put together, that decision was wrong to run away. But when he came back to the right decision, all the other parameters fall into place. One parameter which does not fall into place there apparently is that violence happens there. But that is a Kshatriya dharma to uphold righteousness. It's like the doctor has to amputate the limb which has got infected, otherwise the whole body will perish. So there we have to understand. So that's why this is a complex issue, and depending on the situation, one has to apply certain parameters and understand what is right and what is wrong. Last three we will take now. Sarang Gokhale.
Yeah, hi, Sarang here.
Yes.
There was a story I heard regarding this Sitaji when she
Your
was
voice is not clear.
taken away. Pratima. Hello.
Yes.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had a story. I don't know whether it's true. Maybe you can confirm it. Like when Sitaji was taken away by Ravana, before that actually she was replaced by an image.
Yeah, that Maya
through
Sita
use of
aspect.
yeah.
That is one story which is there, but it is not in Valmiki Ramayana.
Okay. So there is a like variation in the story, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay.
The different versions are there. No, different authors have written so many Ramayans are there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Binaji.
Yeah, so Swamiji, very excellent sessions. First of all, I'm really enjoying them. A lot of information which I had all this misunderstanding about has got cleared. Now, this misunderstanding that Shri, like whenever we have any kind of a thing, they say that Ram was in a human form and all, and he bared all the consequences and all the unfairness and all. But I always used to think that he was God. So now today it was clear that he was God. He was going through all the feelings and all those emotions. But now one question is that see, I have a lot of elders with me, around me, living and everything. So do we have to see? I feel that as they grow older, they do become like children, but we can't treat them like children. That is my biggest this which I keep telling my husband, that you keep telling me that they're like children, you have to treat them like children. But children, we could hit them if we got angry, we could shout at them if we got angry. But elders, we have to respect them. We can't reason with them. Okay, whatever. So it's very difficult to, I don't know how to handle it, this part, because it is suppressing, because I keep quiet And when I go out again of my room, and I can't be normal like Ramchandra ji. I can't. It shows on my face, which again my husband says, then don't come out then if you want to show, because then it affects them. He's extremely very, he doesn't need Vedanta. Where the elders are concerned, at least, he's very understanding. Even where my mom is concerned, he's very understanding. So I don't know how to handle this. I mean, I'm trying to follow it. I'm trying not to open my mouth. Chalo, keep quiet, not to say anything. But it is very, very difficult not to show my feelings. I don't know how to handle this. If you can help me little bit, or how.
I can say some things, not sure how much it can help. If you need to take some other advice, please do take. But what scriptures say, I'm just going to say one or two points from there. First and foremost is, if we remember what the elders have done for us, and we bring that gratitude in our heart, and also remember that many of them have been patient, may not be directly with us, but as elders, when we were children, how many things we have done impatiently, and how many things we have done where they have been patient to bring us up, to make us who we are. So when we remember, they may not have done to us, but they would have done to your husband. It may be your in-laws, it may be anybody else. So some family member. So when we remember what they have done, then we have gratitude, and out of that we do service genuinely, where then our patience level will increase, our compassion will also be there, that at this stage, this is what they are going through. And we should be there for them in whatever way we can, where we may have to put aside some part of our likes and dislikes, take it as a spiritual aspect of settling certain karmas and overcoming likes and dislikes. Then suppression, etc. will not happen. So these 2 points, if we remember the good that they have always done and operate out of gratitude. Second, take it as an opportunity to overcome certain likes and dislikes, and sublimate them for this fact that I have some karma towards them which I have to exhaust, and I am doing my best to serve them. Then I am exhausting, because if I do it with likes and dislikes, then I am going to continue my karma ahead with them.
Correct.
So that these two aspects is what our scriptures say, that we must do our duty, what is required, and operate out of an attitude without raga and dvesh as much as we can. Though we may feel, that's the question of sublimation through right knowledge, through right understanding, and letting go.
So basically, I should, it's a good advice. I should think that I'm exhausting my karma by, I have to go through it. Everything good has come in my life. Along with that, there are few things that I have to is on my karma. Yeah, good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, last question for today. Paragi Mehta.
Hari Om Swamiji, very lovely session. One question has always been bothering me is that question about Lakshman's duty towards his brother, his dedication, his love, his everything which kind of prompted him to go with Sri Ram to the forest. What about his dharma towards his wife, Pati Dharma, Urmila?
Both of them sacrificed for the sake of the higher purpose which is required.
He couldn't take Urmila with him?
How can he take Urmila with him? He is going there to serve Bhagwan Ram. And that's what Sumitra says. Sumitra ji says that in Valmiki Ramayana, that serve him. Without sleep, you need to serve him. So a servant, Sevak Dharma is that the Sevak is always in tune with the needs of the master and service to the master. The Sevak goes out of comfort zone. That's why Sevak Dharma is most difficult to follow.
Yes.
At that point in time, if he takes Urmila, the attention will be on Urmila.
Correct.
So if he is going as a sevak, and that's what he said to Bhagwan Ram, that I will serve you, I will be there to protect you, and you both be then fearless. I read that passage out from Valmiki Ramayana. Now that cannot happen if he takes Urmila, and that's why I'm saying it is a sacrifice both of them have done.
Yes. Yes. So the glory is on Sri Ram about his doing his duty and keeping Lord Dashrath's promise, and he did not, kind of deter from his dharma, pitru dharma, vachan, like they say, pran jai par vachan na jai, Raghukul reet, everything. But the glory which also has to be given to Lakshman and Urmila also, that they also sacrificed for the sake of Sri Ram and Sita and their father's promise.
100%. There's no doubt in that. Sita ji also, Urmila ji, Lakshman ji, all of them.
Yes. Okay, Swamiji. Thank you. Hari Om.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I know there are lots of hands which have risen, but at some point you can join. Those doubts can get clarified. One good way is you can join Tulsi Ramayana sessions that I do on Sundays. So then you can, there also there's the opportunity to learn Ramayana. Of course, there Tulsi Ramayana is more devotion oriented. Bhagwan is Ram. Ram is Bhagwan in that. But yeah, any questions you have, we can handle at that time also. So can we have the announcements, please? Today evening, we have the session by Dr. Sampadananda Mishra ji on the Sanskrit gems from Valmiki Ramayana. He is a very great Sanskrit author, a writer, researcher, and he does many courses also. So the beauty of Sanskrit in this Adi Kavya, he will bring it out very nicely. So 7 to 8:30, we will have his session. Tomorrow morning, we will do meditation on Siya Ramji. That is a session for the morning tomorrow. We have done japa, we have done bhajans. Tomorrow is meditation, and day after will be the puja. So all different sadhanas are there. And coming to talk of the sadhanas, we did the Manasik and Vachik japa. This is the typed japa where we should go on to this website and do the japa online. Type Ram, 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 and as you say that, as you type that, chant Ram, Ram, Ram. So we have come up to about 3 lakh plus 3,50,000, I think, the number of japa done by more 700 people. So if more of you join, it would be nice. By day after tomorrow, we want to reach 9 lakhs because 9 is the number of Bhagwan Ram. He was born on Navami day. So do join this japa as a sadhana today, tomorrow, day after. 3 days you can do, and let's reach our goal of 9 lakh japa. The beauty is the collective punya of that 9 lakh japa comes to each person. So do it out of love for the Lord, do it to reach the goal, do it to attain punya. So that those are the announcements for today. And yes, Ram Mandir, we are doing this entire program for the support of Ram Mandir. Please do support and contribute your might to this great temple that is coming up, and also for the whole city of Ayodhya. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chinmay Mission Mumbai, as well as like our Facebook page, Chinmay Mission Mumbai, and help us to reach maximum people. Sunday is the Tulsi Ramayana session, 10 to 11, and registration is there for it. We are right now in Aranyakand, in Ayodhya Kand, where we are doing the Samvad between Bharatji and Bhagwan Ram is about to begin. If you join now, the earlier sessions are recorded, so you can get the recordings even of Balkand, even of the Ayodhya Kand. So please register there, and our office will do the follow-up with you. Thank you very much. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.